Ohai. Mandalay, the second largest city in Myanmar with the population more than 1 million people. 2010. In the past the capital of the Burmese Empire, and in the subsequent the center of the administrative area Mandalay. This city is located on the bank of the river of Irrawaddy, 716 km to the north from Yangon. The city was founded in 1857 by the King Mindon, and from 1860 to 1885 was the capital of the last independent Burmese kingdom, while in 1885 it wasn't occupied by the British troops. See in more detail History of Burma. Mandalay initially was under construction as the capital city at a foot of the Mandalay Hill. Height of 236 m. According to Buddha's prophecy that on this place the great city, the center of the Buddhism, has to grow. Foundation of the city was dated for the 2400th anniversary since the birth of Buddha Gautama. To the basis of Mandalay, the capital of the Burmese Empire was the city of Amarapura. On January 13, 1857 the King Mindon gave the order on foundation of the new capital. The ascent ceremony on a throne was held in July 1858, and constructions of the old capital of Amarapura were sorted and postponed on elephants to a foot of the Mandalay Hill. In the city the palace complex, a deep ditch around city walls, a mortar of the move of Lok Myasain, the hall of ceremonies Patkon Ho Shwaishtkain, at Umasha's monastery, the public Tudar mosaic complex and library of Buddhist manuscripts was constructed. The new capital was originally called Yadanaban. From Paliski Ratanapur, the city decorated with gemstones, but then renamed into Mandalay. From Paliski de Modala, the flat earth, or Mandair, the favorable earth. The King Mindon, being a wise governor and a skillful diplomat, in process of forces I sought to resist to strengthening of the British influence in the region. However, his son and the successor, the last King Thibaut, was less successful statesman, having actually conceded reins of government to relatives of the second wife Supailat. At their insistence, having ascended to a throne, in order to avoid dynasty fight and intrigues, he ordered to execute the immediate family, princes and princesses, having placed them in velvet bags and having strangled or having trampled elephants. According to traditional animistic representations of Burmans, at the basis of Mandalay under gate and angular towers of a wall of a palace complex, and also directly under a throne, 52 persons as the victims to spirits natum were immured. As a rule, as the construction victims, the criminals sentenced to death were used. In the basis of angular towers also 4 jugs with oil, which time in 7 years had to be checked by astrologers, were placed. On the third check in 1880, it became clear that oil in 2 jugs dried. Besides, there were many other bad omens. Astrologers recommended to the King Thibaut to transfer the capital. The king refused flatly. Then the decision to Umalostavitnat, bringing of a large number of the ritual victims minus 100 men, 100 women, 100 boys, 100 girls, 100 soldiers and 100 foreigners was made. The royal decree was announced publicly, arrests began, and in Mandalay there came general panic. Inhabitants fled the city and the foreign states, and first of all Great Britain, under the pretext of protection of the citizens, began to threaten with intervention unambiguously. In response to the English ultimatum, arrests stopped, but 100 arrested managed to be immured secretly alive. trying to avoid final colonization of the country of Great Britain. Already in time to launch two Anglo-Burmese wars during which she annexed all Lower Burma by then. The King Thibaut signed the contract with France on construction of the railroad from Laos to Mandalay and the organizations of the joint military fleet to Irrawaddy. However, all diplomatic efforts of Thibaut, including sending several embassies to Europe and overdue attempt to play on political contradictions between London and Paris, having kept, like nearby Siam, nowadays Thailand, at least formal sovereignty, were unsuccessful. British, having used internal instability in the country, easily occupied Mandalay during the Third Anglo-Burmese War, 1885, and annexed Burma to the British India. However, the British colonial authorities faced fierce resistance of the local population, sometimes armed only with onions and arrows, and managed to suppress finally national performances only in several decades after the beginning of occupation. Thus, the brilliant royal capital of Mandalay was occupied by foreign interventionists in only 29 years after her basis, and the royal palace became the headquarters of the British military case in the Top Burma. The residence of the Governor-General of Burma was transferred to Rangoon. The King Thibaut and the Queen Supailat were sent into exile deep into of India, where they lived until the end of life. During World War II, Japanese, trying to cut off supply with allies of Kuomintang China, occupied Indochina. In the price of 1939 January, of huge efforts Mountain Still UL Highway was built from Rangoon to Chongqing, through Mandalay, by Lashio, by Shan and Kunming, on which to China tens of thousands of tons of ammunition were delivered. Japanese, enjoying support of the Burmese nationalists, intruded in Burma and occupied Mandalay on May 2, 1942. During firefight, the city wall and the palace were strongly damaged, and Japanese turned it into a warehouse till 1945, when British returned to the power in Mandalay. In 1948 the Independent Burmese Union was formed, and Mandalay became the capital of the Mandalay Administrative District. Education. Mandalay Technological University. Sites. Mandalay, the huge chaotic city which was located around a palace complex. The wall of a palace complex is constructed in 1857 by the King Mindon and represents the correct square with the party slightly less than 2 kilometers. The wall is surrounded with the wide channel with water viaduct, which there are 4 bridges from each party. The palace strongly was damaged during bombings by British and Japanese. Mandalay is very scattered, and great interest is represented by the ancient capitals of Ava and Amarapura in the neighborhood of Mandalay, and also it is a lot of small towns and monasteries. Over Mandalay, the huge mountain on which the temple complex is located, towers. Huge Buddha points down to Mandalay, where he expected construction of the new city. From the temple complex the covered ladder galleries with thousands of steps go down. In forests there are monasteries around. The northeast corner of a palace complex is a Kutodo Pei temple complex, a pagoda of a great merit, consisting of 729 stone pavilions, in each of which is on one stele with the text of a Buddhist canon. Of 729 steles pages there is a full text of Tripitaka in language Fel. Continuous reading such huge book will require 450 days. In 1900 the text from stones was printed on paper, 38 volumes on 400 pages turned up. Near Kutoda Paya there is a Siddhamani Paya complex also with stone pages, but comments and Tripitaki's translations in Burmese. Around several considerable Buddhist monasteries are located. To the southwest from the city there is the best known temple of Makamuni with Buddha transported in 1784 from the conquered Arakansky kingdom together with bronze figures of lions and elephants. It is considered that Buddha Sakyamuni was present at construction of this statue and consecrated it with the aura. Skeptics consider that the statue is constructed in 100–200 years after Buddha. Visitors cover Buddha with gold leaves, and now a layer of gold leaves, about 15 cm. Buddha's face is specially protected by glass. In Mandalay there is a big Chinese quarter with a night market and also the world's largest market of Nephrite. Vicinities of Mandalay very impressive. The long wooden bridge connects Mandalay to the former capital of Amarapura. The King Buddhapaya in 1790 began to build the biggest mortar in the world in Minjuna. In 30 years he managed to build only the mortar basis. If he completed it, she had to be 150 meters high. After the death of the king his successors didn't decide to continue construction, and soon the earthquake ruined a huge construction which reminds the unfinished Babel Tower. Before a mortar, 2 huge lions whom the earthquake also damaged. The huge bell intending for a mortar is near. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.